Hey guys, Cameron here with Emerson Property Management. Every week I bring you tools, tactics, strategies, lessons I've learned, things that have helped me build up a sizable rental portfolio in about 2 years and now manage that portfolio. Today, guys, I want to talk about contractors and multiple bids. So when you guys are doing a project or you have, you're a property owner and you're getting a paint job done or you're getting cabinets replaced, you're getting flooring put in, how many bids are you gathering? Are you going with your one guy that's done it before, that's helped you out with some other houses? It's really good. Maybe slow, but good. Are you going with some guy who's very cheap? Are you gathering bids? Are you just, are you going to do it yourself? These are some things to think about. And you really don't want to think about those as the turnover is approaching. You want to get some stuff laid out and let your guys or gals or whoever know, hey, on the 31st of March, these folks are moving out. On April 1st, I want you in the property. I'm going to walk it on the 31st or on the 1st, and I want you to give me an estimate. Lay some of that out ahead of time. You don't want to tell them the night before. They're probably got stuff already lined up for you. So now, but if you're trying to get a contractor to save some space, you better make sure you're giving them the work, because if they carve out a week or two for you and then you pull it away, you're probably not going to get a call back from that guy or gal. So how do you guys handle multiple bids or multiple contractors? This is something that's come up a couple times with our owners about, hey, I see your price based on what you have from your contractor, your guy you use, or your trust. I'm gonna get a couple other opinions. Awesome, great, do that. But should you do that every single time? If you'd asked me this a while ago, I probably would have said, absolutely, you always get multiple bids. Why wouldn't you? But I can tell you that time is money. You guys know that. That's an old adage. And Cameron, what does that really mean? Well, that really means that if you have a property that's vacating on March 31st and April 1st, it's going to be vacant, and you're not collecting any rent, then, and you're averaging, the $1,500 to $2,000 property, which is most rentals are going to run you between $1,500 a month and $2,000, at least in greater Houston area. You're going to be losing several tens of dollars a day, almost $100 a day, when you factor in utilities, property taxes, insurance, and all that other stuff. You're going to be losing, $50 a day, damn near $50 a day just in rent, 50 to 100. And then you add in, again, utilities, setup fees, paying that, cutting a yard, doing all that stuff. So each week, if it's $2,000, you might as well just figure if it's $2,000 a month, you're going to be $500 a week is what you're going to lose in rent. So every week that thing sits vacant. So this is what most folks do. Hey, on the 1st, hey buddy, the tenant vacated. I walked it. I need paint touch up. I want to get this carpet replaced or cleaned, and then I want to maybe look at replacing some of these fixtures or something like that. You have a little punch list. You go to that vendor, they're busy. So maybe 2 or 3 days later, they get in the property, they give you an estimate, and then you say, oh, wow, okay, well, let me get another estimate from this other guy. Or maybe you have them working synonymously, but over the next 2 or 3 or 4 days, you get some estimates. So say that week is gone. And then the next week, you select, okay, hey, buddy, I want you to start. And they take 2, 3, or 4 days to start. And then they finish the project in 2 or 3 or 4 days. So you're looking at, if you're not careful, almost 3 to 4 weeks from the time the property is vacant until the time you finish the rehab. Now, Cameron, I can hear you guys already. Cameron, I don't do that. I got my guy and we rock and roll. I would say most of you, that's incorrect. There are some people who have their guy, they have 10, 20, 30, 40, 50 units or more, and they have their crew that they work with all the time. You guys can get in there and boom, rock and roll quick and easy. However, for most folks, and especially people watching this, if you guys have only 1 or 2 or 3 properties, you don't have enough work to have that kind of pull with a vendor or pull with a contractor. I mean, you don't want them out there every week at 2 or 3 properties or 5 properties. You're never going to make any money, So if you don't have that kind of volume, then you don't have that kind of pull with these vendors. So we have enough pull with vendors to be able to say, hey, the property is going to be vacant at noon on March 31st. I'm going to be out there at afternoon in the afternoon on the 31st. I'm going to put a punch list together that evening. You're going to get it. I want you out there on the 1st, walking the job. Give me an estimate that day, and then we're going to start the day after, or maybe that same day, start getting materials. So we start in just a day or two. Now, if we have multiple move outs, we have typically we have a couple different contractors we work with. So they can kind of tackle a couple, and they don't just work by themselves. They might have 2 or 3 or 4 or another crew they work with, so they can divide and conquer if we give them multiple turnovers. Having said all that, be cognizant. What I'm trying to say is be cognizant when you pull multiple bids, especially for turnovers, on timing. Make sure you're doing that front end with your vendors. And then when you go through the bid process of selecting multiple bids and getting vendors together, line that up early, because it can eat up 2 or 3 weeks of your time. And if you're not careful, and then, oh yeah, they get to bid, okay, buddy, it's going to take me another week to get out there. It's like, well, shit, man. Now, if this guy's $500 cheaper and he's a week early, though, it's the same money for you to go, because you're going to lose $500 by waiting on that guy another week. So you've got to think about that stuff. And this kind of comes back to my question, or the proposition that I get asked by several owners multiple times is, hey, I've got a guy who can do this. I've got a guy that can do it cheaper. I've got a guy that can do it. You might very well have a guy. That most people have guys, but are they going to do quality work? Do they have insurance? Do they have the proper licensing? Are they going to be quick? Are they going to respond when we need them to? Are they going to give us the attention that we need? Are they going to be polite to the tenants? I know some guys who are awesome who are dickheads to tenants, and we don't work with them anymore. We can't. If you're going to be a dickhead to our tenants, even if you're the best contractor in the world, best HVAC person, we can't do it, because you got to respect the tenant's time and space, and you got to, the vendors almost serve 2 people too, because they serve us as completing the work, but it's in the tenant's space. The tenants are leasing that, so we have to respect their space and time. So when should you guys get multiple bids? If you feel there's a price that is egregious, you need to look at multiple bids. If you have plenty of time and time is not of the essence, you can get multiple bids. There are going to be times where we as a property management company, or you as an owner, it would be foolish for you to try to get multiple bids. In the Houston freeze 2 years ago, or coming up on 2 years ago, it would have been very, very foolish to try to get multiple bids, because plumbers and really most folks in general could not keep up. They were putting people 30, 45 days out, even longer. So you wanted to get what you could and get your water back on, even if it was a little bit more expensive. So be cognizant of emergency scenarios. Turnovers are a big one. We're going to give you, an estimate and tell you about what it's going to be to complete the job. But if you think that cost is egregious, just make sure, and prices have gone up. I have personally done rehab jobs where I am the GC on the job, and I am surprised by the costs I'm getting. Vendors and subs and everybody's pushing costs up. That should soften here, but as we go in the winter and housing starts to slow down, people are going to be looking for work. They're going to be a little hungrier. But for now, be aware if you do go through that situation where you want to pull another bid, make sure you trust the guy or gal, and make sure that the delay from the time that we have our guy starting, or whoever this is, if you have your main guy lined up and they give you a bad quote, or a quote that you feel is unjust, understand the time it's going to take for that other person to start. And is that vacancy worth it? And it might very well be. I'm not saying it's not. I'm not saying you should always go with the highest bid, but if it's twice or 3 times the amount of money you think, yeah, it's probably worth waiting an extra week and grabbing some other quotes. But if we're talking about $100 or $200 here or there, or 5 or 10% more, it's kind of like, hey, let's get rocking and rolling. I hope that was helpful. I know that was kind of there was a lot of different pieces in there, but I just want to summarize. Make sure that the vendors that you guys are using, you're lining them up timely, and you give them enough notice, and you're making sure that you reduce vacancy, because as a property owner, I can tell you it will eat you alive if you're not careful. And when you need to be pulling multiple bids, Make sure you understand the time involved on that. And if the first bid you think is high, but they can start a week or 2 weeks ahead of by the time you get all the other bids, make sure you understand that differential, because you're going to lose the money either way. You're either going to pay it to them to start a little bit early and be a little quicker, or you're going to pay it to this person with the vacancy on top of it because you've missed that week or 2 weeks of rent. So just keep that in the back of your mind. And if you guys are working with a property management company or thinking about that, make sure you understand that too. Like, we are working with people, unlike most GCs who work on a house and then they turn away and walk away from the property, we continue to manage the property. So if I have a guy install floors and 6 months later the floors start bubbling up, who's on the hook? Me, not your GC. So when people say, oh, I'll have my guy do it, I'll have my guy pull it together, that's fine. But in 2 or 3 or 4 or 5 or 6 months, if you have that same floor issue, I've got to go to you, and you have to go to your GC, who might not even ever respond to you, to come out and fix the floors. So, and you have tenant damaged tenant relations and stuff like that we got to be cognizant of. So when you use your property management company, most of them honor their work. Some of them honor their work, not all of them, but make sure you understand that as well, that, you know, property managers are trying. I'm not saying all property managers are good. They're not all created equal, but they are trying to do the right thing in the sense that they're going to have to deal with the issue if they're not careful. And yes, I'm selecting the contractor that I know is very good. Yes, I'm selecting the contractor I know is going to take care of us and get the job done quickly and reliably. And yes, I am selecting the contractor based on those two things and not price. I want to make sure costs are in line, but I'm not selecting the cheapest person. I'm going to select the most reliable and the person that's going to do great work. So I hope that was helpful. If it was, let me know. If it wasn't, let me know. And I'll see you all next week. Thanks.